Hello, good evening. Today this is B.N. Sureka, Assistant Professor of Commerce, Government Degree College, Sedlingampalli, Rangareddy District, Telangana. Okay, and today we'll be dealing with the subject business law, which is important for BCom final years, for computers application as well as for general, for 5th semester. So I would like to deal with the topic Contract Act, and in that we are going to deal today consideration and capacity of the parties. Okay, so first we would like to know what do you mean by consideration. So I can say that consideration is the foundation of every contract. So you should have a clear idea. Without consideration, is there any chance a contract to be taken into act? No. Because what do you mean by consideration? I have explained in the previous class itself. Consideration means the price. Whatever the contract is going to be handled, it is being done for something to be paid. The person is offering the offer, the person who is handling the offer, both are at a contract just to get something in return. If A wants the B to do some work, obviously B demands some consideration to do that particular work. So we can say that consideration is a very foundation of a contract. Without consideration, how can say a contract comes into existence, right? If you're not paying any kind of price to the work done, then obviously there is no contract at all. Why that particular person will agree to do something for you free of cost? No way. So we can say that consideration becomes the foundation of every contract. Next, the law enforces only those promises which are made for consideration. So we can say clearly that a contract becomes enforceable by law only when there is a consideration. A contract becomes enforceable by law when there is a consideration. Why are making a contract? So that the either of the two parties are not deceived. Why you are making the contract? Either of the two parties are not being deceived. For that particular purpose only you are making a contract, and you clearly specifies that what work you are doing to the opposite person, how much you need to be paid by that particular person. So when you agree it, obviously you want that the particular person won't cheat you. Whatever the consideration you are demanding, what is consideration here? The price. The price to be paid for a particular work to be done. So even the law also enforces a particular contract only when there is a consideration. Where one party promises to do something, it must get something in return. Obviously, when a party is promising to do something, obviously you need to get something in return. You won't do freely. You won't do free of cost any service to anyone. Hence, we can say that consideration is the lifeblood of every contract. We can say that consideration is the lifeblood of every contract. Without consideration, there is no contract at all. So we can say that consideration becomes also the foundation of every contract. So definition is being given by so many thinkers, but I have selected only one thinker which makes you understand very clearly what do you mean by consideration. So according to Pollack, consideration is the price for which the promise of other is brought, and the promise thus given value is enforceable. Okay, so consideration is nothing but you are fulfilling a promise for which, since you are fulfilling a promise, your fulfillment is being given a value, and that particular value is enforceable. So that is nothing but consideration. Again I repeat, just listen carefully. Consideration is the price for which promise of further is brought. A particular person is offering a promise to be done by you, and you promise to fulfill it at a given value. I think you people are very clear. You try to fulfill the promise at a given value, and that particular value is enforceable in the contract. If the opposite person, after fulfilling the promise, if he doesn't pay you the price, obviously you can approach the court. So this is nothing but consideration. So we can say it is something which is of some value in the eyes of the law. And the law enforces only those promises which are there for consideration. So it is very clear, the consideration has to be mentioned in the contract. If a consideration is not mentioned in the contract, we can't say that particular agreement is a contract, because the consideration has some kind of value in the eyes of the law. When they read the contract, obviously they read who is offering, who is the offeree, what offer he is giving to that particular person, and that particular person is agreeing the offer at what price. Everything is been entitled in the contract, and without any consideration we can't call it as a contract. Hence, in the eyes of the law also, consideration is given due importance. Okay, hence we can say that, easily we can say that consideration becomes the foundation. We can say that consideration becomes the foundation of every contract. Now, we will deal with essence of a valid contract. What are the essentials of a valid contract? Firstly, it must move at the desire of the promisor, right? Whenever a particular person is making a consideration, it should be the desire of the promisor, because he is the person who is going to pay you the consideration. If he is not at the will to pay you, how can you say that consideration is a valid consideration? Now take for example, A has given some work to be done by B, and A promises to pay you 5,000. That is his desire too. But now I say, no, B both acha ladka hai, B is a very good person, why don't you pay 10,000? And I write 10,000 without his intention. Can you call it as a valid consideration? No, A won't agree, because he has given importance of paying only 5,000 to B. And with my interest, I have written 10,000 there. Then why he will pay? He won't pay. So we can say that it should be at the move. It must be at the move, at the desire of the promisor. Then only we can say that particular consideration is a valid consideration. Next, it must move from the promisee or any other person. It must move from the promisee or any other person. So what do you mean by this? Even the promisee also should agree to the consideration. Now in the recent example only, I said that A has given some work to B and A agreed to pay rupees 5,000. Okay. Now take for example, I has undertaken some electrician work at my house, and I am thinking to pay the electrician 5,000 rupees. And the electrician visits my house, and he just have an overlook of all the total work to be completed in my house. And he says that, Madam, whatever you are going to pay rupees 5,000, it doesn't match my service. And why don't you pay me 10,000? He demands me 10,000. If I agree to the promisee, then it becomes a valid consideration. If I won't agree and I will to pay only 5,000, obviously the promisee may accept my contract, may not accept my contract. So here it is important that a consideration should be agreed even by the promisee also. Then only it becomes a valid consideration. Okay. Next one, it must be past, present, future. So consideration can be past, present and future also. So you may be just amazing what is past, what is present and what is future. Now we will look into what is past consideration. Past consideration means you make the agreement now itself, but you are paid in future date. Means, now take for example, you are working as a manager or something X, you are very well good at accounts. Now a landlord approached you and he said that, I will save my maximum amount whatever you receive in the bank. Why don't you work under me? And he also promised you to that give some pension after your retirement. So this is the agreement you are doing now, but it is useful for you in the future. So this type of contracts is called past consideration. And present consideration means it happens then and there itself. Now you are thinking to purchase a car for 10 lakhs. Obviously you approach Ravi, and that fellow says that I am going to sell my car for 10 lakhs. Then you just bargain for 8 lakhs. Okay, then Ravi accepts to sell you 8 lakhs, and at the moment itself you give a check of rupees 8 lakhs and you just get your car. So that is nothing but present consideration. And what do you mean by future consideration? Future consideration means it is also called a promise. A promise to do work in return for the promise of the payment for future consideration. Now you do the work, but your payment is made in future. Your payment is made in future. So it may be, we can take any number of examples. Now take for example, you are working with a owner. You belongs to a rural area and you are working with the owner who is residing in the city. And he says clearly that I will educate your daughter who is right now 5 years of age. I educate her. I completely take her education in my hand. And you just be at my home and you do all the work what I give you with 3 times a meal per day. And you agree to it. Why? Because you want your daughter's education to be done. That is done in the future. But you are doing the work now itself. So that is nothing but future consideration. If you are satisfied, whatever the offer is being given by the promiser, obviously you will agree for future consideration also. So these are the difference between the past consideration, present consideration and future consideration. It need not be adequate. It need not be adequate. You should get in satisfaction. It should not be adequate. Okay. Unless until you won't get a satisfaction from particular consideration, it can't become a valid consideration. Consideration must be real. Consideration must be real means what do you mean by this? Now take for example, you have agreed to do a promise, you have agreed to do a particular work and you have entered into a contract. Now example, both persons are there, A and B. So A had agreed and approached you for some work and you agreed to do for rupees 10,000 and you have started the work. Due to your mother's illness, you couldn't complete the work at the moment. Just an example, your mom was expired and obviously you need to take immediate action and you have to move out. So obviously the work is incomplete. But the contract for 10,000 could lapse. But it is an understanding between A and B. B approaches A and tells us situation and he tells that since I completed 80% of the work, why don't you pay me 8,000? You need not pay 2,000. Okay, if A agrees to the whatever the word spoken by B, obviously the situation is very bad, the situation is real, obviously A agrees to pay 8,000 and remaining 2,000 work is done by someone else. So it must be real. Whatever then only it becomes a valid consideration. And it must be lawful. What do you mean by lawful, ma? Whenever the consideration is not paid to the opposite person after completing the promise, that particular contract deed is enforceable at courts. It enforceable by law at courts. Then only we can say that particular consideration is a valid consideration. So you should be very much aware that whatever you are doing, that should be enforceable by court. Now we will see actually what is the importance of consideration. In the first slide itself I said that consideration becomes the foundation of every contract. Right? We are doing business here. Obviously, whenever you want to do some kind of work, you need something in return. Without getting anything written, no person will agree to do any kind of work. And don't think that whatever work you are doing at home, chamchagiri, if mom is asking to go to shop and obviously you demand, mom, why don't you give me 10 rupees, I will just go and come. That is not a consideration. Consideration is doing something on a profit motive. Consideration means doing something on a profit motive. So now the opposite person gives an offer to complete the work. Obviously, you won't complete the work at a free of cost. You demand something. He also tries to pay you something. So that is nothing but consideration. So we can say that consideration is very, very important in each and every contract. And you can't call it as a contract without the consideration. You call something else if a consideration is not mentioned in the contract. The law insists on the existence of consideration if a promise is to enforced by creating legal obligation. Though the law itself insists that if a promise is to be enforced as a creating legal obligation, whatever the consideration is mentioned in the contract, it should have some legal obligation. It creates a legal obligation, obviously, because the contract is enforceable by law. I said, as usual, in the previous classes, I have said that an agreement has to be enforceable by law, then only it becomes a contract. When it is enforceable by law, obviously, the consideration which is mentioned in the contract becomes enforceable by law. Directly, it's going to affect. If a contract is enforceable by law, whatever the deeds, whatever the rules and regulations which are being mentioned in the contract, they also are being enforceable by law. So obviously we can say that law insists on the existence of consideration and the promise is enforced by creating a legal obligation. The person can approach, the promisor can approach the court, as well as the promisee also can approach the court. If the promisee doesn't complete the work, obviously the promisor can approach the court by presenting the document, by presenting the contract, whatever been taken place between two persons. And if the promisor has done the work and the promisor is not willing to pay the required amount, obviously the promisee also can approach the court with carrying or with presenting the contract at the court. A promise without consideration is null and void. What are the promise you are doing without a consideration, without paying anything? Then we can say that particular contract is null and void. It is not, we can say it's void. Means it is not legally bonded. It's a fake contract. So we can also call it as a naked promise. I think you people are very clear with regard to what is the importance of consideration, ma. Now we will deal. Now you may get doubt now. No consideration, no contract. Exceptions are there. No consideration, no contract, but some exceptions are there. So in what way? No consideration, no contract, but still there are some exceptions. So what are that? I means without consideration also they become legal. In what way they can become legal? With natural love and affection. With natural love and affection, no consideration is being there, but it becomes a contract. It has been enforceable at law. Because natural love and affection means it is a contract which is being given in a written form. Now your granny writes some property for you with natural love and affection. It is a contract. The document is valuable. The document is enforceable at law. But you are not paying any consideration to your granny, right? Are you paying any consideration to your granny? But you are getting the property of your granny. So that is nothing but natural love and affection. So but it should be expressed in writing, ma. It should be registered under law for time being in force. It is made on account of natural love and affection. It should be made on natural love and affection only. And it is between the parties standing in near relation to each other. Some near relation should be there between the two parties. So these are the conditions where natural love and affection comes into existence. All whatever I have told, whatever I have explained now itself, all should be covered under natural love and affection. So that even the particular person doesn't pay any consideration, but still the contract comes into existence. The contract is enforceable at law. Next one, compensation for services rendered. An agreement made without consideration may be valid if it is a promise to compensate wholly or a part a person who's voluntarily done something. You are paying for the services here. You are paying for the services. Now take for example, I have lost my purse. A bag which contains 10 lakhs. And someone has written to me, to my address by seeing the PAN card, something, or ID card, something, etc. He has written to me the bag containing 10 lakhs. obviously I will be very happy to see my bag back, and then I try to give something to the person who has came to return my bag. So maybe some 50,000 like that I'll try to give. So we can say that it is not a contract. I didn't ask that person to get my bag back and I will pay you something. No, I didn't made any contract. But I am giving myself some compensation for services rendered. That he has rendered some services without my will and wish. So I had paid him something. So that is nothing but compensation for services rendered. They are being voluntarily done by some person. Next one, time-based debt. A promise to pay a time-based debt is also enforceable, but the promise must be in writing and signed by the promisee. The promise may be to pay the whole part or part of the debt. An oral promise, a pay time-based debt. So what do you mean by this time-based debt means? Now take for example, you are being in a contract with Sita for completing a particular work where you promised to pay her 10,000 within 1 month. But Sita was unable to complete the work within 1 month. So your contract is time-based debt. She was unable to complete it. So obviously you and Sita both talk together, what shall we do? And you try to pay the amount for which the work has been completed, well, good and fine. Or else you may give some time to her. But what do you mean by time-based debt? Within the limited period, how much she has completed. So well, I should pay complete 10,000 or not. And she herself agrees that she has not completed the work. Then obviously you will try to pay for the work completed. That's it. Because she has not met the time which has been fixed by you. So that is nothing but time-based debt. Next, completed gifts. No consideration, no contract shall not affect the validity of any gifts actually made between the donor and the donee. Now, donor is donating something. Is there any contract? No. That is his will and wish. He want to donate. They are not making any kind of contract between them. A person is maintaining some orphanage. He requests the donors to give something. That's it. He won't beg here and there. And donors also, just they come with their well-wish mind to support that particular orphanage, and they try to donate some amount. So these are nothing but completed gifts. Now next, agency. If you want to create agency, there is no need for a contract. You yourself can create a agency. Next, guarantee. A contract of guarantee is made without consideration. Now I have purchased a refrigerator from Bajaj Electronics. The LG fellow will give me a guarantee card. He is giving the guarantee card for any consideration. I am paying anything to him? No. Since I have purchased this product, he is giving some guarantee. Here, there is a contract between he and me. Within 1 year, if any parts are being spoiled, they do it, they replace the things, or they see that repair is being done within 1 year. That's the contract between he and me. Since I purchased this product, I am not paying any consideration for the guarantee card which is presenting to me on the purchase of his product. I think you are very clear. Guarantee means, for guarantee also there is no consideration. We won't pay any price to any particular product. Since we are purchasing a particular product of his company, obviously the company person will give you some guarantee card. What will be the guarantee? It may be for 3 years, it may be for 1 year, or it may be for 2 years. Let it be anything, the period of time. But he promises to replace the item or repair the item if anything damage is being done to a particular product within 1 year. Until 1 year, if anything happens to that particular product, we can make a call to the customer care, and that fellow will come and he will try to rescue the problem, and he will find out what went wrong. He try to replace the spare parts, or else he try to repair it. So for guarantee, we are not paying any consideration, but still it becomes a contract, even though we are not paying any consideration. Next, remission. No consideration is required for an agreement to receive less than what is due. Whatever the amount you have been mentioned there, you are not writing any contract there that you should pay me full. He has to pay full. That's it. He has to pay full amount, whatever is being mentioned in the agreement. So this is called remission of law. So better be clear. You may get questions. No consideration, no contract. So what are the exceptions for it? So very good a question. You may get in your exams also. You may get even this also, essentials of valid contract also for examination point of view. So with this we have completed what do you mean by consideration and what are the essentials of a valid contract, and even I also explained the importance of consideration, and after that even I've explained no consideration, no contract, but still some expressions are there. So we are done with consideration. Now we will be dealing with capacity of the parties, which is a subtopic of your contract act of first unit of business law. So section 11 of contract deals with competency of parties. Section 11 of contract act deals with competency of parties. So according to section 11 of the contract act, the following persons are incompetent to contract. First is minor, second is person of unsound mind, and third is person disqualified by any law. So minor is not competent to enter into any contract. If he enters also, that particular contract becomes void. Person of unsound mind, the person who is physically and mentally not fit, cannot enter into a contract. And the last one is person disqualified by law. If the person is being disqualified, he is being corrupted, he is being in jail, if he is a criminal, then that particular person also cannot enter into any of the contracts. So better remember what capacity of the partners who are not eligible to get into the contract, and we will be dealing in detail with each and every one. With each and every one we will be dealing in detail. Now effects of minor agreement. Effects of minor agreement. If you go for a minor agreement, so what are the effects of it? So first is an agreement with the minor is void. I clearly said now only. Section 10 of the Contract Act requires that the parties to a contract must be competent. And Section 11 clearly says that minor is not competent. The Privacy Council made it perfectly clear that minor is not competent to the contract and that a contract by minor is void. Any agreement which is being done with the minor, obviously that particular contract will become void, and you can't question and you can't tell that minor has deceived me, because you know very well the rules and regulations of a contract. Minor is not competent to enter into contract. Knowing everything, how to entertain a minor to get into the contract? So obviously if you do any kind of agreement with the minor, that is void, and that is your mistake to get into contract with the minor. And you know not specifically point out minor, he has deceived me. No, you doesn't have any right. First you should think that minor is not eligible, minor is not competent to enter a contract, and you should never sign a contract with the minor. Next, ratification. An agreement with minor is completely void. A minor cannot ratify the agreement even on attaining the majority, because a void agreement cannot be ratified. Now think no ratification is being done here. If you are entering into contract with the minor and you think that after gaining his after completing his age of 18 years, whatever contract you have done when he was a minor, that can be ratified. No, you can't ratify it. I never think ratification will be done. Most of the people think that minor doesn't have any knowledge with regard to the contract. We can forcefully make the minor to enter into the contract and may attain the age of major. Obviously, that particular contract can be again ratified. No. Whatever contracts are being done, when a minor is taken into account, all contracts gets void when he attains the majority age. And you doesn't have any right that to question the minor how you have ratified my contract. No, you doesn't have any right to question him. Why? Because you have taken that particular contract when he was a minor and he has nil knowledge regarding that particular contract. He may not accept and you can't force him to accept it. No, it can't be done. Can be a promisee or a beneficiary. If the minor is a promisee, if the minor is a beneficiary, obviously you need to pay him whatever is there. Now take for example, minor is owning a car which costs somewhere at 60 lakhs and is paying insurance for it, and he met with an accident. The car was totally injured because of the accident and he need to get an insurance of rupees 5 lakhs. Now the insurance company cannot say that he is a minor, so we won't pay. No. Since he is the beneficiary here in this case, remember, he is the beneficiary in this case. He is the promisee, not the promisor. He is the promisee in this case. Obviously, the minor has to get his benefits. The minor has to be paid. The minor has a right to claim his insurance. And the insurance company can't cheat him. Insurance company can't cheat him. No estoppel against a minor. Where a minor by misrepresenting his age has induced other party to enter into the contract. Now minor has done some mistake and he has hide his age. And he said that he is a major. And without knowing his age, now you have entered into contract with the minor. After taking up the contract, now minor is not interested to pay you the amount. And he know very well that he is playing a tricky game. He know very well that whatever be the contracts, that becomes void. He know because he is a minor. And you doesn't have that knowledge that he is a minor. And you enter into a contract with that fellow.